Welcome to the Sellernomics Podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Lisa Kinski.
Hello, everybody. Hi, sorry I was muted. Welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. I'm Lisa Kinski, joined by GETIDA's Chief Evangelist, Rob Stanley. Rob,
Hey.
how are you? It's almost weird to see you virtually now. I've been with you in person for so long.
Yeah, it's been long on the road and lots more coming up, but it's been amazing. Seeing lots of amazing sellers. And let me tell you, we have a really good one today. Why don't you intro who's going to be on and what we're going to be talking about today, Lisa?
Yes, we sure do. So today we have with us Mark Pierce. He's a fulfillment analyst with Shipware, and we're going to be talking about tips to lower fulfillment and transportation costs for Amazon sellers. So let's get straight to it. Mark, how are you?
Good. How are you, Lisa? Nice to see you. Rob,
nice to see you
as
too.
Well. Thank you so much for having me.
I have to say you picked a great topic because these are like areas that a lot of people spend a lot of money on. Fulfillment and transportation cost is huge. And obviously a while back, it was even more expensive because I'm sure people are starting to see it come down. Why don't you just start off, just quickly tell us a little bit about your role over at Shipware. And I'd love to jump right into kind of talking about the current expense for shipping items either from China or other countries to the United States to start fulfillment.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I'm a 3PL analyst. And like most analysts, I analyze both sides of the fulfillment equation. I'm looking at the merchant and I'm looking at a 3PL or the fulfillment provider. So I like to kind of marry those two things up together. I've been in the fulfillment industry going on 20 years. And I've worked on both sides as well. So we feel like we've got a pretty good perspective on how things work, how things impact merchants, but also how it impacts the 3PL, which starts a circle and comes right back to the merchant again. So understanding kind of both sides of that equation, being able to do the analysis of the merchant's business, but also the 3PL's operation helps really get a good understanding of where we can help both sides. But certainly help the merchants.
Absolutely. Amazing. So Mark, why don't you start off with maybe give a tip on what are some of the trends you're seeing? I mean, we saw record prices at one point here with shipping costs coming, with shipping coming over, and now it's coming down. Do you kind of see that trend coming down, and what kind of tips do you have maybe to help with that, that pricing structure that's going on right now?
Sure. So absolutely. I mean, we're seeing a huge decline in prices for things coming, across the water. Containers, as much as 25-30% lower now than it was just a year ago, just this time last year. Capacity has also increased greatly. I mean, we had delays of 30, 60 to as far as 90 and 120 days. We're seeing much more realistic 6-week turn times now. And no one's sitting offshore waiting another 30 days to get in. Likewise, once it's landed, modal has become opened up as well. At one point we were seeing as many as 10 to 12 loads for each available truck. That's now down to back to pre-COVID normals of 3 to 4. So definitely some great improvement and great opportunities there as well. Some of the learnings that came out of that is expanding into other ports and looking at other options as opposed to sticking to Long Beach. Everybody goes to Long Beach, right? But we've now found that through creative placement of your fulfillment operation, you can take advantage of less busy ports that are either cheaper or certainly competitive with what you're used to seeing. So definitely one of the things that Shipware looks at is the entire picture. We want to look at all of the impacts of each step of the supply chain. So it's not just the fulfillment part, it's getting the product in, getting it to your fulfillment location, and then getting it to the customer.
Yeah, and in my life before GETIDA, I actually worked for a supply chain service provider, and the words Long Beach were like almost the bane of our existence, right? Because everybody's container was over there. And you're right. I even saw, so I live in Georgia, and everybody started kind of rerouting and utilizing Savannah, much more. It didn't used to be as popular of a port, and now it's like one of the major ones, like Long Beach was. And just looking at this, guys, like we have a resource that I refer to all the time, for container load pricing. I mean, the average cost for a 40-foot container right now is like $4,900. This just goes back to 22, and it was like 18,000 for full container load, and that wasn't even like the peak. So it's really incredible to see everything continue to move downward, because I think that everybody, especially in the logistics world, was convinced that we were not going to see those pre-COVID prices again. I mean, we're not quite back to where we were, right? But I certainly think that we're closer than we had expected to be looking forward, 6-9 months ago. I mean, would you agree with that?
I do agree with that. But if we look at it as a whole, though, there are going to be repercussions for years. We're going to see ebbs and flows of different impacts across the supply chain. This is just one, transportation is just one aspect of it. We had capacity constraints, then there's excess capacity. People pull back. Now we have capacity constraints again, which puts pressure on pricing. And as long as we're still, buying just in case inventory, we're still going to have capacity issues. And, that's kind of one of the things that we're working with now. It's amazing how much it's changed from just 6 months ago to today. 6 months ago, we had no capacity. Now we've got capacity again. And where we were having prices shoot up, now prices are becoming competitive. However, the demand is also slightly down, but expected to come back up. So there's just a lot of market forces that we typically see happen over a period of 5 years that are now happening over months. And it's really, really a challenge for merchants, but also for providers to keep up with. And that's why I get to analyze this stuff every single day.
Well, and to kind of tie it all together, I mean, as you said, prices are becoming a little more competitive. Some are coming down, but what it seems to continue to go up is Amazon fulfillment prices, right? They just released their new FBA pricing in January 17th, and some of them are delayed rollouts even up until April. So what we always recommended at my supply chain company, not mine, the supply chain company I worked at, was to use a 3PL to kind of drip feed your FBA. So that leads into the question of how can an e-commerce brand find the 3PL that is the best fit for them to help support their business, maximize that client satisfaction? I mean, what are you looking for in that matchmaking process?
Yeah, absolutely. We are all about making partnerships, and that's really the top thing. You want a fulfillment partner. You don't want a fulfillment provider. So if you have to talk about, what's the first thing you look at? Sure, you're going to look at pricing. You're going to look at location. You're going to look at the operation. But is this a company that shares your culture? Are they going to partner with you? Are they going to help you grow? Are they going to respond to your successes, but also your challenges? And that's really, one of the first things that we preach is it's not always about cost, although that's certainly very, very important. But what we want to find out is this a person that's going to partner with you that's sustainable, that can manage your peaks and flows? You want to be scalable, but can be a long-term partner as well. Are they going to have the space to grow with you? And are they viable? But certainly being able to make that partnership is really what's going to lead to that success. It's going to gain you flexibility. It's going to gain you competitive pricing. They like great clients that are going to stay with them, and also understand the provider's business and needs as much as that of the merchant. And when the merchants understand and actually strive to partner with the provider, they have much better success. And that's really what we're out to foster. And that's where it becomes very important to understand the merchant's business. What is their customer experience going to be? What do they want it to be? How much do they want to pay? And then work with the provider to find that sweet spot for that customer.
Absolutely. Mark, I want to kind of loop back around to just one thing you brought up. We were talking about kind of demand, and you said demand's down a little bit right now. One of the things that just happened, I think, in the last few weeks as China kind of opened up more. Now, it wasn't they were closed, but now it's not requiring like the quarantine. They allowed people that had like 10-year visas to get in again. Myself is included in that because I had a 10-year visa. So anyways, do you think with that kind of opening, there's also a giant thing called the Canton Fair coming up, probably produces a lot of people going over there, buying items, getting factories going again. Again, not that they weren't, but kind of just picking up more. Do you think, how's that going to affect products coming over? Will we start seeing more increased in demand? Maybe prices could go up again?
Yeah, that's very possible. But I think the good thing about China reopening and getting back to a more normal flow of business is that we're going to stop seeing that just in case inventory. Everyone was waiting for factories to close down again and that sort of thing, and they're coming up on on peak at the end of the year, and they don't have their product. So what do? They order twice as much next time so that we can, in case it shuts down again. And that really put a strain on capacity in a lot of places. And there's still some areas where that's the issue. If the fear of it being shut down has decreased and is decreasing, then we're going to be a lot less likely to move back to more of a just-in-time inventory. And that goes back to the ports being open as well and getting the flow of goods coming into the ports. So long as we're moving along smoothly, and it's anticipated that we'll continue that way, that I think capacity is going to probably level out. And we're not going to have a strain on capacity because we're going to get just what we need when we need it. It's kind of those whole market dynamics that you see, the pendulum swings back and forth. But it's definitely a positive sign that the market there is reopening, and we're getting back to some semblance of normalcy in manufacturing.
Absolutely. So speaking of fulfillment, let's talk a little bit about 3PL facilities. So what kind of things should brands or sellers be looking for when they're considering moving some of their inventory into a 3PL facility? I mean, as Lisa mentioned, prices are going up on storing it in Amazon's warehouse. So maybe you have some there, but maybe you might also want to have a third-party logistics area company holding some more inventory. What kind of things should they be looking for if they're considering a 3PL?
Well, the great thing is there's thousands of 3PLs out there. I mean, that's something that is just, it's a given. And I was just in a meeting the other day and we were talking to a smaller merchant, and it's like, there's something for everyone. And what it comes down to is identifying what your actual needs are. What are the needs? And certainly there's your opportunity to go with a big multi-facility, international company. If your demand requires that, if your need requires that. But at the same time, you have just-in-time fulfillment, and these are companies that are waiting, to in a matter of hours to take your product in and then sell it for you, distribute it for it, only as you need it. So there's so many different aspects of 3PLs now. It's really great. The downside of that is you don't always know who's good and who isn't, or who is actually an ongoing concern, because have a lot of that too. You don't want to put your product somewhere one day and the next day it comes back and the door's padlocked. That's never a good thing. So it really comes down to understanding your needs, what the provider supports, and are they viable? And that's the top three. The great thing too for Amazon sellers is that's becoming a priority for a lot of 3PLs. Whether it be FBA or FBM, they are gearing up to support it and making major changes to operations to support it. Because certainly we have certain needs, and that's becoming a much more prevalent thing in 3PL market that was not before. It used to be certain 3PLs would kind of cringe when you mentioned that, oh yeah, we also ship through Amazon, and that's no longer the case, and that's not determined by size either. We have very small 3PLs that are huge Amazon fulfillment companies. Likewise, the big boys, they're dedicating whole buildings, to Amazon fulfillment. So something for everyone, and it's really just clearly identifying and articulating your needs.
Yeah, awesome. I'm going to follow up with that though. So a quick question for you, Mark. Actually, we're going to take a quick break, and after the break, I want to ask Mark, should you be avoiding 3PLs in California? That question gets asked a lot right after this commercial break.
Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at getida.com/sellernomics.
Yeah, so be sure to head on over to getida.com/sellernomics. We got Mark Pierce on from Shipware. We're talking about tips to lower fulfillment and transportation costs for Amazon sellers. Kind of hit you guys with a shocker. I think Lisa was a little shocked because it wasn't on my question list.
No, I haven't heard that question, and I haven't heard any like tea around that. So I'm very interested.
Right? Well, we're gonna ask Mark, and hopefully he has an answer for it. But I do get asked that question. I live in California. It's expensive in California. You got LA. Long Beach is down near LA. There's lots of facilities down there. There is 3PL down there. But people ask me, should they avoid it? Because is it cheaper to maybe go to Nevada, which is close by, or an Arizona warehouse, or ship it over to Texas? What kind of experience have you seen with a question like that, Mark?
A lot of it comes to where's your product coming in and where's it going to? And that's really what is extremely important. We have a lot of clients, 80% of their shipments are going to the Northeast. Certainly California fulfillment's not good for them. You may inbound in Long Beach, rail it across, put it in your fulfillment center, and there you're good. On the other hand, if your fulfillment, a large amount of fulfillment is in California or evenly distributed across the continental US or North America, California may still be advantageous just because of that's where it's coming in, and you're not railing it or trucking it, to 20 other locations. Yes, prices are a little higher, labor, but you have different aspects in every market. And you really have to balance out all the actually impacts of your location. Because if you're saving 20% and getting your 80% of your customers in 2 days using ground shipment, yeah, you're going to do it out of California because that's going to offset any additional labor that you're going to have in your fulfillment center. That's it's just economics is what it comes down to.
Absolutely.
Interesting. Excellent. Interesting. So we're talking about, FBA, talking about 3PL. I mean, really the other option for brand owners is to fulfill it themselves, right? Have all the product in their basement or their garage and pick a packet and ship it. So it works for a little while. But for e-com brands that are looking to outsource this fulfillment, I mean, let's get into like tips for cost reduction, right? Like what are some of the things that they can do to kind of lower those costs when they're outsourcing something? Because it's in theory cheapest to do it on your own, right? But maybe not always. You don't have the power and volume, and you don't, your time is worth something. So what would you say for those?
You're absolutely right. Oftentimes cheaper is doing it on your own. You don't have margin. A 3PL provider is going to put in their margin. You got to pay them to do something. But the additional headaches that you have that are kind of those soft costs that you don't understand when you're doing it yourself can really add up and eventually take toll on your business. A good example of that is, we have a recent client that we've been working with. They were doing great fulfilling out of their store, one location, that sort of thing. But they caught on. We're in the digital age, and now things come on, they go viral. And if you pick up 60% in one day or one period of time, you're sunk because now you're not shipping things effectively in a time and giving your customers a good customer experience. That can kill your business. So it is always a good thing to be considering and looking ahead, because one of the problems of doing it yourself is scalability and capacity. You can't change on a dime. You don't have an additional person over here that's working on something else that you can pull in to help fulfill your orders. And that's one of the things that a fulfillment company can do for you. One of the great things is that scalability and the capacity. It handles those peaks. And since COVID, one of the things, we don't have traditional peaks any longer. A peak is 2 weeks in the spring. It's cyber spring. It's a new product drop, and these peaks and volumes increase 25, 80%. To handle that yourself is a little bit difficult. It's extremely difficult, next to impossible. Whereas utilizing a 3PL that can flex with you can certainly help that. Doesn't add any cost to you. They've got the resources already. It's just a matter of managing the business in their four walls, reallocating resources, and boom, we've taken care of your orders for that day. So certainly finding someone that can, again, meet your specific business requirements in both cost and customer experience. It's really about the customer experience oftentimes is what we're looking at. Especially for Amazon customers, they have a certain level of expectations that we want to make sure that we're meeting. So the 3PL needs to be fully understanding of what it means to be fulfilling for Amazon sellers, and then be prepared to meet those needs. So again, it goes back to clearly defining and understanding what you want, and understanding what your customers need.
Yeah. Cyber Spring. I don't think I've heard that. That's pretty good.
I haven't either. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I like that.
That's Cyber Spring started. My gosh. Let's see. A little story here. So
right.
I started, like I said, in fulfillment 22, 23 years ago. And I was with a 3PL working for them that had just brought on a client that had been a retail client for years, had a big, huge store network, and they were just starting their e-commerce. We went, I was cleaning out my office 5 years ago after having been with them for 10 years. And I found my original forecast for them for that first year. And it was the peak forecast. So Q4, we did 6,000, we shipped 6,000 units in the month of November. So what happens in November? We have Black Friday in November.
Yep.
I also noticed that we were closed Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. On Cyber Monday, we were open, but those 4 days we were closed. My last forecast for them, which again, 10 years into the future, we were doing 160,000 units a day for that period and working 24/7 over Black Friday. So the point of all that is things have certainly changed over the years, and they're going to continue to change. So we need to really stay up and keep up with that. But it's just a very, very different market, and it's ever changing.
Absolutely.
Cyber Spring came in is when they realized, oh, Black Friday is great. Let's duplicate that again. Let's have our Black Friday sale in the spring. And they did. They called it Cyber Spring. That since has gone by the wayside as well. Because again, now we have new product launches. That's what we're looking for, different seasons. So again, that's where it goes back to the 3PL needs to be able to understand that. Needs to also understand that you may have unforecasted volume, or you may have volume that you only forecasted 2 weeks ago. You can't always do it a month in advance. And again, finding a good 3PL, meaning someone that understands kind of the market dynamic that we have now and where e-commerce has grown.
Yeah, absolutely. So Mark, how do you suggest we have this country that right next to the United States or right below the United States, Mexico. Is there any advantages or can we take advantage of Mexico? I just got back from a Mexico sourcing trip a few weeks ago. They talked all about utilizing Mexico for sourcing actual products and how it's so quick to get it, a couple hours, it's up to the border. It can be in the Amazon warehouse. How have you guys seen Mexico being utilized from your guys' point of view, and what do you recommend?
Yeah, so over the past few years, you can actually put an actual date to it, but certainly over the last couple of years, we've seen a huge opportunity in fulfilling out of Mexico, especially for particular product lines, and it's the maquiladora solution that Mexico has. This is actually an old program that Mexico started in 1960. And it was primarily for manufacturing, and manufacturers could ship their raw goods free of duties into Mexico, complete the product, ship the product back, and never pay any duties and taxes on that. That has since, in association with US, the Reg 321, which then allows you to ship into the United States a product up to a certain amount, and again, not pay any duties and taxes on that. So with the two, then a merchant can conceivably eliminate 80 to 100% of the duties and taxes that they pay on products coming in. The way this happens is it comes into, let's say you can come into Long Beach, send it by bonded carrier into Mexico, so it never gets imported into the U.S.
Does it go through customs still, or does it just strictly go straight down there?
Goes straight down.
Interesting. Okay.
Right directly to the facility and gets shipped back up to the U.S. as a fulfilled order. So long as that order is under the current de minimis, which is $800, there's no duties and taxes then. So it goes straight through, goes to the customers, and the merchant has now saved considerable amount of money. The other upside of that too is two different countries, two different economies. Fulfillment labor in itself and fulfillment costs, even without the 321 savings, could be 20, 40 to 50% cheaper than what we're going to pay in the US. So definitely some benefits there. And definitely some certain things that have to be considered, as well. You don't want to just pick up and go to any 3PL in Mexico or Canada for that matter. Canada has a very, very similar program. We can do it with Canada as well. So you need to understand what you're getting into and who you're actually working with. But certainly there is big opportunity there. We've got several clients that we've placed in the last year that have seen significant savings, but has also seen an improvement in service. This is while we deal in a lot of cost reduction and cost savings, and that's very important. It's also very important that we preserve that customer experience, and a lot of concern goes into taking it to a different country. Standards may be different. That's not the case at all. We've got some strong companies there with very strong ethics and are really working to create this. I'm not going to call it a niche business anymore because it's certainly ballooning now. We get some great facilities that are providing great service.
So,
sorry,
Lisa,
I was just going to say,
I want to recap this because I want to understand this a little better.
Okay.
So I ship my container in to Long Beach. They take the container, take it down to Mexico, put it in the warehouse. Now, I just want to understand a little better this $800. Is the $800 limit the retail value, the cost of the goods? How is that $800 determined? Because I'm kind of thinking to myself, like, even if it's at a full retail value type thing, if I sell a lot of goods that are, small and light type items, and I already have a bunch in the FBA warehouse, I could be storing it down there in small amounts trickling into the FBA warehouse to make sure I stay caught up. But if it's a small and light item and it's not expensive, let's see if I'm selling it for $8, which by the way, FBA small and light, I think is under $12, if I'm not mistaken. According to Brandon Young, when we were just in Prosper Show to take advantage of. So I could ship, like $108 items and be at that $800 limit and, refulfill my FBA kind of warehouses as I go. So is that sound right within, did I kind of summarize that sort of good?
Yeah,
or absolutely. I go all over the place?
No, that's absolutely. And it's a really good point because, a lot of people that we've worked with in the past have, maybe have a retail store or they're going to replenish their Amazon. And so long as it's below $800, like you said, you can send $108 products if you want. Below $800, it's same as whether it's a single item or whether it's 100 items. Actually, a couple of companies that we work with will automatically split an order so that it's 2 shipments if it's over $800. So we can keep that. Again, that's each seller is different. So that may not be applicable to everyone. It may not work for everyone. But certainly, we've got clients that do store fulfillment out of Mexico. So long as that carton that they're sending 5 of them to the store, but so long as each one of them is valued at less than $800, then we're going to restock the store and not pay duties and taxes on that product.
Wow. Sorry, Lisa, go ahead.
No, it's okay. And I'm glad that you brought up Canada because we have a lot of partners in Canada and I speak to a lot of sellers, Amazon and D2C brands. And many of those Canadian D2C owners seem to have difficulty expanding into the US, not for product market fit issues, but for like logistics and fulfillment issues. What tips do you have for them in where to ship into, how to, I mean, what would you advise?
Yeah, Canada is not like Mexico, and it's not like the US. Yeah, there are certainly specific challenges, and depending on whether you're in a free trade zone or not, is really where the complications start coming in. So we certainly want to, if we're looking for a provider, or even if they're looking here, if you're a free trade zone, you're gonna have a lot better time of it than if you're not. That's really where the complexity comes in, and the challenges are for both sides.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think we'll take one more quick break, and then we want to hear more about Shipware, where folks can get a hold of you, and if they're interested in working with you to reduce that, what the process is. So let's go ahead and take another quick break and hear from our sponsor.
Today's episode is brought to you by GETIDA, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at getida.com/sellernomics.
All right, you guys, so be sure to head over to getida.com/sellernomics for that first 400 in FBA reimbursements free. Coming back to Mark Pierce with Shipware. If brands are interested in working with you guys and reducing those costs, what is the process? How do they get started? Just tell us more.
Sure. It's absolutely super easy to work with Shipware. It's one of the things, when I joined the team a couple of years ago, it's one of the things that really drew me to the company, is that their dedication to help our clients. Most of our services start with absolutely no obligation to the client at all. Share some data with us. We'll do an assessment based on that data and based on your needs, what you tell us, what the merchants, what the shipper tells us. We then will look at that data, depending on what it is, if it's 3PL data, if it's their transportation data, whether it be LTL, small parcel, and just do a general assessment of how their, in the case of 3PL operations, but costs, but how their transportation spend stands up to the market. What are their competitors doing? What kind of rates are they receiving? And from there, we can then present to the potential client what the opportunity is. And again, 100% free, nothing ventured, nothing gained at that point. And if nothing else, people who contact us and do the assessment at least walk away knowing where they stand and knowing where they line up with the market. Because part of that assessment is a benchmarking to the market. We do a lot of market analysis. We always know what each industry is spending on transportation, what they're spending on fulfillment given their size, as well as what are the current rates across the board for both transportation and fulfillment. We work with a lot of providers, and we compile all that data and keep all that data, refreshing it constantly, so that we always can take a look at what merchants have and tell them how they stay in the market. So if we look at that, say what the opportunity is, they find the opportunity attractive, then it's simply a matter of getting the ball rolling, additional data, gathering additional requirements, and then our team of pricing directors and our analysts then do all the heavy lifting. Really, it kind of takes, merchants can have as much or as little involvement as they want. But our team is prepared to handle all the little nitty gritty things, do all the negotiation for you and all the analysis of the bids that come back, all that stuff, and then just hand over a package to you that says, here you go. It's your final decision. We're going to give you enough information for you to make that decision. But ultimately the decision is going to be up to the client. And then we'll help them implement. And really
easy as that.
really, I mean, it is as easy as that. Our teams, on the 3PL team, for example, we have probably a collective 100 years of 3PL experience, either as a 3PL, running 3PLs, building 3PLs, managing fulfillment operations, an industrial engineer. So we understand that. Likewise, on the transportation side, all of our pricing directors are former UPS, FedEx carrier sellers, either sales, they're either pricing directors that have been in the industry 10, 20 years. So they have the experience. They know how to deal with FedEx. They know how to deal with UPS. They know how to deal with all of the carriers. And that's certainly an asset when you're looking, and they have the time. That's what they do. Whereas someone that's in transportation or managing transportation for, a 600 store operation, may not have all that time to deal with sales reps from UPS and FedEx. So that's where the experience that Shipware carries and relies on comes into play.
And how do they get this process started? Visit your all's website? Is there a certain email? Yep, where can they reach out?
Things. Go to the website. From the website, you can do a preliminary assessment on your own. Provide just a little bit of information, and you can outcome with a little bit of, just little information. And then right there, it'll tell you which services work best for you, which services are available, whether it be, Parcel, LTL, 3PL, and then how to get in contact with the right group.
Perfect. And for our audio listeners, that website is simple. It is Shipware, shipware.com, shipware.com. And Mark, if anybody has any questions for you, they can reach out to you directly at mpierce@Shipware.
Absolutely. And especially if it's fulfillment, I love talking about fulfillment, and can certainly, share as much information I have. That's, again, the name of our business here is getting information out, educating people. So love to hear from anyone.
Perfect.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Mark, thank you for joining us. This was a long time in the making. I'm so happy that we were able to finally connect.
Yeah, I really appreciate you having me. It's been great speaking with you.
All right. Absolutely. Any last words, Rob?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to shipware.com, shipware.com. Let's flood his inbox there and make sure you take advantage of this. I mean, there's some great opportunities here. Obviously, Mark knows all the advantages that are available to Amazon sellers or even e-commerce sellers in general. Definitely give him a call. It doesn't cost anything to have a consultation with you guys. So I would definitely take advantage of that. Head on over to shipware.com and go through their little process, fill out their form, and see if there's something that works for you. That's what we're about. We're about saving sellers money. So if it's just in line.
100%. Awesome. Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Robin. Thank you for everybody who listened today. We will see you guys on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, GETIDA. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.